Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 14th of August. My name is Gary Peer.
And my name is Philip Kingston.
And welcome on this busy week in real estate. It was great to have Daniel Rees on last week.
It was great to have him on, great to have him as a winner, and what a great all-round guy he is.
Yes, and we've come off a very, very busy weekend with 11 auctions filled, plenty of action-packed activity out there in the market, but we are looking forward to this weekend coming and also the great debate today.
The great debate, auction versus...
private sale.
Yes, it's a contentious issue, Gary, but we'll discuss that in a few moments' time.
We will. It's going to be our hot seat issue of the week. But firstly, let's talk about auctions coming up this weekend. Philip, firstly, we have a really good little investment opportunity someone could live in there, in Downshire Road, number 11, at 11, Downshire Road, Elstonwick. What a great address.
I wanted to talk about this one, Gary, because this is just a small apartment in Elstonwick, and on this show we want to talk about the small, the big, and everything in between. Yep. And this is a small two-bedroom apartment right in one of the best streets in Elstonwick, and it's also quite funny to talk about it, Gary, because this was an apartment that your great aunt, was it your great aunt?
Or she was just my aunt.
She was just your aunt. She used to live in this building, so a bit of family history for you there.
She was my aunt Greater, yes, she was great, because her name was Greater.
She might have been great, because her name was Greater, but she was actually one of Melbourne's worst drivers, because she invented the drive-in newsagent.
Drive-through newsagent was the innovation of my aunt Greater. She did drive through a news agency in Bay Street in Brighton, didn't even have to get out to get a newspaper. Just opened the window and said, "Herald, thanks."
Foot slipped on the accelerator, she reversed straight through and drove straight through the newsagent. And let me just say on GPTV that Gary Peer is a great real estate agent, but his family are possibly the worst drivers on the planet.
Let's move on to talk about the next auction, Philip, which is a Saturday at 11:30, and that happens to be in Cambrook Road, townhouse 1 at 93 Cambrook Road in Caulfield North.
Yes, this is a great townhouse, Gary, two-storey townhouse, and just brilliantly located because it's walking distance to the Caulfield train station, the East Caulfield shopping centre, the Caulfield racetrack, the tram in Balaclava Road. If you're looking for a positionally perfect property, this has got to be it.
You can get in there just and settle probably in time for the Caulfield Cup fill in October. Another property that we want to review on GPTV is the one that we talked about at 127 Sycamore Street. That comes up this week, Philip, at 12:30. You've got the honours there.
I do.
And what a great home that is.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that, and as previewed on GPTV last week, that is really a great house.
A couple of interesting auctions on Sunday, both generated out of the St Kilda office, Philip. Let's not forget to talk about that.
No, St Kilda is becoming a very vital cog in the Gary Peer and Associates real estate machine. Great to see the team doing their really good job and great numbers and a lot of activity.
Jeremy Rosens is doing us proud, as is his team. Certainly Nikki Janova and Lemore Herskovitz, aren't they guns?
Absolutely incredible.
Doing great stuff.
Ably assisted, of course, by Daniel Michmacher and also Ben Eisner.
Yes, and some other administrative people who are doing a lovely job. They've got an auction on Sunday, at 10:30, and that is 5 at 209 Hotham Street in St Kilda East. We're looking forward to seeing how that one goes. A lovely two-bedroom apartment, and Jeremy Rosens has got the honours of doing that auction, Philip, so we're looking forward to it. Followed up immediately afterwards, well, not immediately, but shortly thereafter, 311 Bamborough Road. Lemore's listing, and I think you're doing the auction there at 12:30.
I am, Gary, and that's a single-fronted semi in Bamborough Road, and I love this sort of real estate because it's what we call in our market as affordable real estate. It's great for the first home buyer, the renovator, the investor. I love selling those homes because they just turn over so beautifully.
They do. And now the great debate. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always discussed. Vendors have been for years and years talking about, do we auction, do we private sale, do we auction, do we private sale? Let me just start by saying, as a policy statement, we are absolutely delighted to help you with either. So we would be very pleased to auction, we'd be very pleased with private sale. We really don't mind which way you go.
And we are excellent at both, Gary, I don't mind saying.
We'd like to think so, even if we say so ourselves. But let's talk a little bit about some of the reasons why maybe auction and what people's resistance is to auction, because there's always three reasons, Philip, that people won't auction. One of those reasons is...
I'm just trying to think.
I can tell you. The
I don't have to think then.
You won't, I'll give it all to you, Phil. You just go there and look good and do your job as an auctioneer, and I'll do the thinking and the business. The first reason, ladies and gentlemen, is fear of failure.
Fear of failure, yep. A lot of people think that because if they have an auction and it passes in, it's a public expression of failure.
Yep, but if it was a private sale and it had a 4-week campaign and it didn't sell in 4 weeks, would you not be in exactly the same position?
And that's the thing, I think, Gary, and it's worthy of a little bit of digging deeper. When people see the auction results on whether it's online or in the Age newspaper, it's a very public process. They're able to see, okay, 50% sold, 60% sold, 70% sold. So publicly, every Sunday and Monday, they can see what's going on in the auction market. What they can't see is the amount of private sales that failed, because theoretically, if we talk about days on market, the auction process, generally speaking, a property's on the market for 21 active days. That's excluding the time that it was loaded to the internet before the first open for inspection. So theoretically, after 21 days, a property will either have sold at auction or passed in. What people aren't able to measure is how long has the private sale been on the market, and therefore on the same basis, when a private sale hits day 22, it's failed.
Yeah, absolutely. And what people don't always understand is that an auction does bring things to a head. How many cases have we got, Philip, where people have rocked up on the day, or people have looked at one of our private sales and said, look, we like that, we're interested in making an offer, but we've got this auction this weekend. So the auction catches people, it commits them to a time frame. If you want to buy this house or that house, if you're not here on Saturday at 11:30 or Sunday at 2:30, you're just not going to get it.
And if I can pick you up on that
private
point,
sale doesn't do that.
What people don't realise is how many properties us and the entire industry sell every Saturday and Sunday to somebody that does arrive on the day. And people think, well, you know, that's not only going to happen on a smaller property. It was only 3 weeks ago that we sold a property well in excess of $2 million to a buyer that saw it for the first time on the day of the auction. Now,
the buyer, earlier this year it happened as well.
The buyer might have seen it online, they might have seen it in the print media, but they hadn't activated to going and having a look at it. But when they got up on that Sunday morning and looked at what properties were going, they said, yep, got to go to that property because it's going to be auctioned. I don't think that buyer came with a serious intent of buying it, but she was there, and the theatre of the moment. I mean, obviously the house suited her, but if it was a private sale, I don't believe that buyer would have activated their interest on that date and given time.
The second reason people, so it's a myth. The fear of failure is a myth because you can fail with the alternative as well.
Correct.
Number 2 reason, Philip, that people don't want an auction is the invasion of privacy.
Well, it's interesting, people say that all the time, they don't want their privacy invaded, yet with private sales, it's interesting, the feedback that we get from our vendors is that the problem that they find with the private sale is that it just goes on and on and on. They've still got to have the same number of buyers go through their properties.
If they want to get it massively attended.
Absolutely. Now, if you think about it, our average property, Gary, gets somewhere between 40 and 70 groups of people going through the property. Now, with an auction campaign, that's done over 3 weekends. Now, when you're trying to get 40 to 70 people through a private sale campaign, it is a barrage of appointments, private appointments, which means that the vendor, instead of just keeping their house in showroom condition once, twice, 3 times a week, it's constant. It's almost 7 days a week.
Good point. The third reason that people reject auction or often are scared of auction or don't want it is they think it's too expensive, Philip. Tell us about that.
Well, the reality with an auction campaign, it's a very intense marketing period that goes over a 3-week program. Now, if you think in terms of our clearance rates generally are anywhere between 70 and 80%. The ones that pass in, and I'm going to use the word pass in as opposed to fail, of the properties we pass in, 90% of those passed in properties are sold within 2 to 3 weeks of the auction. So the reality is the marketing period is a 3-weekend intensive marketing period.
It's captured and it's capped.
Absolutely. Now, with a private sale campaign, and we talk about days on market, auction properties have less days on market than private sale. This is accepted in the industry right across Melbourne. So with a private sale, your advertising budget can go on and on.
So in fact, an auction for somebody that wants to advertise properly is in fact cheaper than a private sale. It's contained. It also doesn't have to be enormous. And the other thing that we wanted to add, ladies and gentlemen, in Victoria is that there is no charge for the auctioneer in just about every case, whereas in Sydney and some other states, the auctioneer you have to pay for separately.
It's true.
So there are a couple of the reasons why, but we're happy to get some feedback on ideas at
garypeer.com.au.
And happy to take this debate further. But we reckon auction's a great way to go, but happy to support you and do just as well.
And just to summarise though, on the auction versus private sale, Gary, I know we're running out of time. If you think about the inner suburban area where we're active, and the inner suburban area is really about a 15-kilometre circle around the GPO in the city. If you think about that area, about 75% of properties when they're sold, go through the auction process versus 25% private sale.
So you're swimming against the tide a little bit if you don't auction, Phil.
Correct.
And of course, with an auction, there's no asking price. You take all of that problem out of it, I suppose, of having too high, too low. A big week at GPTV, lots of debate, lots of discussion. We're happy to have your input in ideas at garypeer.com.au because we could talk about this for hours.
We could, Gary. I'm happy to, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in this week. We look forward to seeing you next week on GPTV. I'm Gary Peer.
I'm Philip Kingston. Have a great week.
Cheers.